If you've ever wondered,
It just makes you feel good, doesn't it?
whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, Cincinnati, WKRP.
Let's pause it there.
Tired of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial.
I wonder if
music
you
off,
can remember that show.
Just maybe.
Oh, I was waiting for you to stop it. I had to stop it. Thousand apologies, everyone. I was waiting for you.
You were just so into it. It was.
I was having flashbacks. Yeah.
It's a great
show. So hello, everyone. This is day 3 of our sessions for you in this January. We have a little graphic for you that we shared, and if you just bear with us for a couple moments, we'll get back to this one. For right now, I would just like to acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. By personally making a land acknowledgement, we are taking part in the act of reconciliation and honoring the land and the Indigenous heritage. I am Denise Ladd, and I'd like to welcome everyone here today. I'm not going to see the chat today, team, so I'm not sure who's all here today, but I see we have some participants.
We got lots of people joining us today, as well as some teachers from the virtual school joining us. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see everyone back again. Shout out to Brandon already, has shared a resource in the chat for some looks like some data information. So we've added that to the show notes today. And Colette is singing in the background. So maybe remember in the spring when we did our share a secret talent, maybe we can maybe if we nudge her, we can get her to perform sometime.
Not sure if it's mine or yours that's cutting out 13, but I could hear some things there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
You sound okay to me.
Okay.
Can someone just give us a thumbs up or let us know if our audio is okay?
Audio's all good. Thank you.
All right.
That Melissa Dent?
Yep, in the virtual.
Awesome. It's just like when you're in the classroom and you recognize students writing online, you learn to recognize their voices online. Folks can probably speak about that, our virtual teachers. All right, so this is our agenda for today. I think we're going to move on, team, right? Did you address this? Like what? Yeah, that's when you
So yeah, we'll just actually, can you go back there for a sec, Denise? We'll just
give
everybody an outline of where we're headed today. So we've done a lot of work this week thinking about kind of like setting the groundwork and building the foundation for successful online teaching, especially with input from our virtual school teachers. Thank you. We're going to continue thinking about engaging students today. We thought that it would be nice to be able to model some number talks that you could do with your students as a way to kind of get into the content as the week goes on. And then we wanted to take a look at a little bit of an article that offers some good advice about successfully taking your offline classroom online, just because it's a little bit different than what the virtual school teachers have done, where they started virtually. You guys have already started face-to-face and we're transitioning to online, and just some of the considerations that we want to think about when we're doing that to ensure that it's as successful as possible.
And we realized during this block of remote learning that you're midway right now. You only have another 2 days to go. But again, we're just always being mindful of we never know what the future might bring for us. So at the beginning, we had a graphic up, and this was what you saw. And we had 2 prompts there. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Before we get into this, team, we got these from the UCubed website, and they're called Data Talks. So if you go to the UCubed website, and we have that link put in our show notes, you'll see a section that are called Data Talks. This is one of the graphics from there, but we've done a little changing to it. So just take a couple moments. I'm going to really focus today on using my wait time as an online teacher, because this is very hard for me. It's hard for me in class. This is even harder for me online. So this is one of my personal goals for today. Is I'm going to embrace that awkward silence when there's nothing happening online, and think of it as a positive that people are thinking and gathering their thoughts about what we're talking about. So if anyone has anything that they have noticed or wondered, you can feel free to type it in the chat and team will see that. Your unmute your mic is also an option for you today. So you can just jump on the mic and let us know what you're thinking. Please tell us we have some things in the chat, team. Oh, you're muted, I think, team. Yeah.
We do. So Brandon noticed that it's a clock format. Melissa has done this with me, so she'll be able to kind of speak a little bit about how it went and maybe give a little bit of feedback. Todd thinks that there's clearly not enough coffee representation. I know that I know Brandon's been working away at these and very diligently sharing this with his students, so he's seen this as well. I noticed that there are 7 toilets, and Sally looks like it's being used as a 24-hour clock. Todd, I'm curious, how much coffee representation would be on your graph?
I'm gonna say quite a bit, considering I have I use the massive Yetis, so I get tops off a couple times a day.
So maybe you're gonna need a different graphic, maybe too.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Sally, if you could jump on and say, why does she think it's a 24-hour clock? Totally putting you on the spot.
No, I can speak. Well, the person went at 5 after 3, and then looks like 8 after 3, and then like if we stay within that, or I guess maybe I'm getting confused here. Maybe it wouldn't be, because I'm thinking within the hour. So maybe it is the minutes and it's not 24-hour clock. Good catch, Denise.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm just curious why you thought that.
Well, I was thinking, well, like how many times do you go to the bathroom in an hour or in a 24-hour period or a 12-hour period? And I definitely don't go 7 times, but maybe I don't drink enough water like Todd.
Sally, I would argue, being a lot older and drinking copious amounts of water, I definitely go a lot.
Well, I know that this is, or I notice, or I wonder that this is not a teacher, because teachers typically go before 9 and after 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we want to show you today is, if you've popped over to the YouTube site, you'll notice this isn't what the original graphic looks like. And so what Tina and I hope to share with you today is that you can take something that's pre-made, and you can kind of give it your own little twist and use it to work on something with your students that you think that they need. So for instance, in this case, Tina and I were working on building the scaffolding. So we took off a lot of other visual and text cues that were on the original graphic, and we're going to scaffold with our students, who are you today, how we might use this in class. So if we're going to go to the next one, we're going to add back one of those graphics that was actually on the original.
So if we were working with students on this, then we would ask them, okay, so what do you notice now? What does this new information help us to understand? So often, like when we're working in data management and we're working with students on graphs and infographics and reading and interpreting, we often say like you have to include a title, you have to include you know, all these things, um, and when we like show them why that stuff is important and help them to understand like the function by scaffolding in the way that we have here, it helps them to better to understand that, like, that big idea that a graph is a story, and that as we're looking at this graph, we're trying to like interpret and make sense of the story that the graph is trying to tell us. And you were right, Sally. It is a 24-hour graph.
See, Sally, there was a reason why I asked that. Way to go. Okay, so, and again, we just spent some more time here waiting and letting the students take a look at it. And then we're going to add some more information that was on the original. And how does this information now help you kind of figure out what the graph is saying to us?
Melissa, can you would you be okay with jumping on and talking about, we did this with your class. What were your thoughts?
Around how the students reacted?
Yeah, kind of how it went, or just like was there any surprises or
I think the biggest surprise for me, team, so I put a list in the chat of all of the various math talks. I always start math with a math starter of some sort or another. The biggest surprise for me with this particular graphic was that when you shared it, the students turned their cameras on more because you were a visitor to the classroom. So their participation differed for me than it did when I had a guest. And that was, so it wasn't the math learning that was the biggest surprise to me, because there was a lot of students who would have said the same things and often contribute. But what really surprised me was that they're with me every single day. And when you jumped on, different kids contributed than normally contribute. And the ones that are usually super loud pulled back. So that was my biggest surprise.
That's interesting. And I kind of connect that to or wonder a little bit about that. I know that many of the virtual school teachers are kind of like team teaching and working together, and wondering if like that new voice, or kind of bringing in different voices, is a way to encourage engagement, maybe from, you know, different students or
Absolutely. Just like in the classroom, in a school, you have other people come into your room all the time. They know the principal, they know the other teachers. But in the virtual school, it's so just me and them and their parents, because they jump on to answer math questions all the time for me. But so it's great if you can invite anybody else in. So virtual field trips are great. Having guest speakers come in, and you would not believe the people that are willing to just pop in for 5-10 minutes to talk to your students.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
When we're doing with kids, we're going to share this activity with everybody as well. Something that was really interesting, and kind of patterns that I noticed from students, was that, like, if I asked them, what time do you think this person goes to bed, there was different thinking around that. Students had some different responses. There was a lot of questions about what symbols meant. If you look at 12 o'clock there's a little what looks a little bit like a shower head. Students were asking, they were trying to make sense of this. They were saying, well, who showers at 12:30 in the afternoon, and why is this person doing that? So when we got to this portion of the slide, or when we showed them the legend, now like it helped them to see the importance of, okay, well, you know, when we're using symbols to represent ideas, it's often a good idea to include a legend.
Perfect. And so if I'm just going to move to the next slide, I'm just going to show folks. So this again is what the original slide looked like on the UCubed website. And so Tina and I decided that we wanted to demonstrate how you can scaffold this for your students, depending on what need that you wanted, and really get them to pay attention to what is going on in the graph and pull out their own information. So that's why we then chose to scaffold it. And originally we gave them this image, and then we added a little bit more, and then some more, and then finally the information at the bottom that kind of talks about where the graph comes from. and it's a water usage in a 24-hour period.
Yeah, this links a lot back to what Melissa talked about yesterday, is that without those cues that we get from students in class, like when we're face to face, we kind of see if they're understanding and all those things. We have to kind of give them everything. We have to think about how we give it to them and how we chunk it and how we make it digestible for students. So, you know, one of the things that we thought we wanted to model was how we could kind of decompose these activities. Like we look at graphic number 1, is that it's intentionally designed to kind of, you know, build curiosity, but then also like there's an engagement, it's students can engage at any level. They can say like, I noticed this. Most students can get in on the conversation in any way. And we thought that that was an important kind of thing to bring to the table, because this, we could also take this and we could take it to a Nelson textbook, and we could take you know, the kind of the scaffolding out of those questions that are in Nelson, and then they become really rich tasks that students can engage in at a variety of levels.
And I think the important thing here is if they are involved in the learning and they can work through the scaffolding themselves, when it comes time for them to go and independently practice a similar activity, I think it kind of builds more of a capacity and a perseverance on their part if they can kind of own that.
Melissa, can you say more on offering those variety of ways of joining in the conversation?
Yeah, I can. Sorry, I had to go back to unmute. I'm also answering teacher texts and teacher emails at the same time that are not here.
Awesome.
So yes, I found that just like in the classroom, but in the classroom, we automatically know, we say it, we show it, we write it down, we say it again, and we link it somewhere for them to actually be able to find it. Like we know to chunk it and to give it to them piece by piece by piece. But when you're in virtual learning, I find I often need reminders. And thankfully, I have one student who is just ever so good at reminding me if I forget to do any of those options. And the other thing that you have to do is make sure that the students have lots of different ways. They might not be comfortable sharing with you as a teacher, but they might be totally comfortable sharing with a group. So giving them so today we were doing a history assignment, and one of the kids said, do you mind if I work on this with other students? So like, I don't care, absolutely, go ahead. So they created a meet, and those kids that wanted to work together did so. Those kids who wanted to work just with me helping them did so. And those kids who wanted to work independently did so. And you do that in the classroom naturally, but you've really got to think about it in the virtual world.
So kind of going back to our central refrain this week of be flexible, right? And be willing to accommodate students' needs in lots of different ways.
Okay. And by the way, I totally appreciate that. Virtual teachers, anytime that you want to pop in and share some of your tidbits of wisdom, please go ahead. And by any of our face-to-face teachers, please pose the questions away, because these are the folks here that can help you problem solve really quickly and give you some answers. The next one we're going to look for, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Teen is going to talk a little bit about how he was able to screenshot those images to be able to put them into the slide.
So we thought this might be a useful utility to share with people. This is a free open source utility called Greenshot, and what it allows me to do is quickly take shots of anything that's on the screen. So you can head to getgreenshot.org. It's completely free for Windows. Free and open source, so it's free of like malware or anything like that. And it's a really great tool that I think teachers could use. So what I can do is I can use just like the Smartboard screen clipping tool, is if I press the print screen button on my keyboard, it opens up this window, this tool here, and I can start taking shots of something that I want. So maybe I want to copy this right here. And that's gonna copy it to my clipboard, and say I want to put that into a Google slide, and I can just put it here, and I can go back and I say I want to just snip portions of the screen that I want. I can just copy that, and then I can just paste it in over here. So a really handy tool for kind of like picking, if you want to pick some key questions from out of the textbook, or you want to simplify those graphics like we did with our data talk today. It's a really good tool for that, as well as there's some neat functionality. So if I right click on the icon down here, I have it even has a image editor. So I can go in here and say there's something that I want to share, but maybe there's some private information that that I don't want to be seen. I can pixelate it. I can just copy that back to the clipboard. And I can paste it here again. So it's a really user-friendly and easy tool to use, and no cost. So something that we thought might be useful for people who need this. Any questions about that? Was I going too fast, or?
No, lots of folks they like that option. I'm just wondering, Teen, so if you on an iPad, screenshot is an option. Can you get Greenshot on an iPad though?
Screenshotting's there's just like you hold down your power and up volume key, and that will screenshot. But that's a good point, is that it would be really, one of the things that we could be helping students learn this week is how to do a screenshot on each type of device. So how to do it on an iPad, how to do it on a Windows device.
Teen, I'm just pulling up the link for you. So that's one of the first things that students asked. So this is the link on how to take a screenshot on a Chromebook, but you can take screenshots on Chromebooks, on Windows, on iPads, and edit all that information with just keyboard shortcuts as well. So I'll give you a link to all of those. I just need to go back in and find it.
Perfect. I will take those links and put them in the show notes.
Awesome, Melissa. And no, but so my question, though, what I was getting at, Tino, is can you get Greenshot on an iPad, or is it better just to use the screenshot option from?
I would just use this is primarily it is primarily a Windows tool, because previous to Windows 10 there wasn't a built-in screenshotting tool. But then the nice thing about this tool is that you can pick a region, pick a window. It's really flexible in how you use it.
Good to know. And you said that MacBooks have something similar already built in.
Right. There's keyboard shortcuts that they can use.
Yeah. Perfect. So not letting me go forward. Try the next one maybe. So we showed you this graphic yesterday, and we spoke to it and said that it's there's an article that Tina and I found about taking your offline classroom online. And so we gave you a little bit yesterday, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about some things. So hopefully this works. Yes, it does. Okay, good. So here actually is the article, and we'll put the link in the show notes. And, the premise of this basically is there's things that you did really well and worked really well for you as the educator and the students in a face-to-face classroom that aren't going to be possible or don't work as well in a virtual school, and vice versa. And I think, again, yesterday, Melissa Dent pointed out there are pros and cons to both. There are some things like not everything virtually is a negative. And so, the kids are making connections with folks that they never would have met in a different setting if they were at their regular school. And they're learning how to communicate differently online in ways that they would never have learned if they weren't learning virtually. So this article, and, we're just going to put the link in the chat. We're not going to talk a lot about it. I like how it says that students, if you look partway through that little quote there, that teachers need to prioritize the student-centered learning and developing lessons that leverage tech tools, instructional models, and engage students.
Yeah, I think that like something that, kind of the tool itself kind of pushes us or nudges us towards is like one of the things she talks about in the article is not treating your online class, like your Google Classroom, as just like a place to post things, and really working intentionally to turn it into a space like that is a classroom, right? And like and the things that happen in a classroom with discussion and, you know, engaging socially and all those other things, and really kind of like designing around that idea. And also that the experience that teachers are having right now is a little bit different than the than the virtual teachers, because face-to-face teachers have been with students and built relationships all year long. And sometimes the inclination is to, when you're going into an online format, that you can just like take that community and move it directly online. And the research indicates that that's not particularly effective, that you kind of do have to go back and redefine the expectations for that online community. Often in the classroom, students haven't had an opportunity to work with all the other students in the class, and then especially doing that in an online setting is now a new expectation for students. And we really want to like make sure that those things are attended to, because you know we are in a time of uncertainty, and making sure that we lay the foundation so that it's strong right now in the case that we have to go to remote learning, or remote learning continues, is really important.
And I think it's important too, if you look at bullet number 3 there, the modular, sorry, or the chunking approach. And a few folks have referred to that already in today's session about how you got to give them a little bit and then pull them away from it, give them a little bit, pull them away from it. Read your students. If they look like they're needing a break, nothing's wrong with stopping what you're doing and giving them a break. Whether it's a break from just whatever you're doing, or it's an actual a DPA, like a get up and get moving break. And I'm sure our virtual teachers out there could speak about this when they run into what they do when this is an issue in their classroom.
Yeah, I can totally, if you'd like, or somebody else wants to jump in.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I feel like I'm talking too much again. When we first started in virtual learning, I thought that because I was of an age when these things happened, that I was getting vertigo just because. And then my students shared that they were having the same symptoms that I was. They were getting headaches, vertigo, sore necks, sore butts, sleep pattern disruptions, etc. Movement is absolutely essential, and screen breaks is very, very, very important. You need to build that into your day. Give choices and activities that can occur off screen as well. I put a whole bunch of brain breaks, and I'm compiling a movement list that I'll add into the movement folder into the remote drive if anybody wants access to that shared drive. But it's essential for your health, for your well-being, but also for your students. There's also, oh, sorry, Dean.
Sorry, Melissa. Are those like, when you're talking about scheduling those things, are they like hard coded into your schedule? Like they're part of the daily agenda, and students know when they are, or like, are you just kind of designing your day so that those things can occur?
So Teen, if you look at any of my day plans, and I think I've posted some samples of them, my day plan is never, except for their breaks, which they will adhere to it on, they'll say 2 minutes till break, Mrs. Dent. Nothing is written in stone. So I make sure that I put in at least 3 movement breaks, but they'll say, hey, I need a break now. And my day flips and moves around. Like I build my day in a Google slideshow, and we start with, here's the day, here's the schedule, what do you need? And today they were like, can we have some time to work on yesterday's math? Or I had half of my students unable to connect yesterday. So they were like, can I just have time to work on this today? And so my day never, Teen, is written in stone. It is always there. It's always in the day, but where it occurs is what the students need, what I need, etc. That being said, the students can always eat whenever they want. That's one of the examples of virtual learning. I don't care. You want to leave and go to the bathroom, you do not need to ask me permission. But if you're gone and you get back and you're lost, then you might want to drop that in the chat, right? So the day doesn't work the same as in the classroom. You don't have the same constraints of put your hand up to go sharpen a pencil. But at the same time, you've got to listen to the needs of the students and what their bodies and their minds actually need physically, because it's horrible what it does to your mental health to be on a screen all day.
Looks like Colette, can you add on to what Melissa's saying?
Yeah, I totally agree. You have to be flexible. At the beginning, I had to change my due dates a number of times because things just take so much longer. So just keep in mind, it takes longer for us to prep, but it takes longer for them to do things and hand it in as well. So that took some getting used to. But Melissa's absolutely right about all the breaks. It's important for teachers and students. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it leads us to the fourth point that says it's about student-centered learning. You need to go at the pace that your students are at. You need to respond to your students' needs if they need a break, if they need more time to work on things, if you need to change their due dates. I think that's very important points that all you folks are mentioning.
Can I also mention assessment?
Sure.
Please.
It's very different in the virtual classroom. I mean, it's very 21st century. You no longer think about handing them worksheets and watching to see if they are cheating, because they may not be able to turn the camera on, and their parents can answer the questions. And if they're using a calculator, so it becomes more about ownership of learning. And the students are very honest about that. You know, I struggled. They reflect on everything. I found this stressful. I struggled on this. I used a calculator for this, Mrs. Deb. I want you to know I tried to use mental math for this one. You can't do things the way that you did if you're like me and you started in the 19th century. You can't do things that way anymore. Assessment doesn't look that way. It has to be more genuine and more honest. They have to demonstrate their learning and their metacognition instead of being able to just fill in the blanks.
So it's not just some more, you know, like, here's the question, what's the answer thing. You want to dig more into, like, what is your thought process through the actual work that they're doing.
Yeah, because that's the 21st century. I can Google any answer I need. It's how to be a perceptive consumer, how to look at media correctly, but also how to show you my thoughts and my understanding.
Yeah, one of the pieces that I hear a lot from our virtual teachers is that this experience has helped many students become much more resourceful. Is that often in the classroom, like, you can kind of like, there's maybe a little bit of a sense of like learned helplessness sometimes, and that when that, you know, that scaffolding is taken away and kids got to figure it out on their own, they become a lot more you know, self-directed in this time. Todd, we haven't given you an opportunity to join in. Is there anything here that you'd like to riff on?
It's kind of just going on with what's already been stated. My kids, because I have grade 7s, they figured out our schedule kind of like based on, we're gonna do math here on this day, this day. But then they're also like, oh, like, we have this project, can we do this or that? And I go, for sure. When it comes like due dates, I go, this is our projected due date. And then by the end of like that work period, I go, so who needs extra time? Who needs this or help? And then more often than not, they say, can I hand this in tomorrow? Can I hand this in late? And I go, yeah, I'm going to mark it as it goes on time regardless. So big thing for my group is definitely flexibility. The kids have been great with expressing that they need help or they need extra time. A lot of them want to do a one-on-one if they get stuck on a math question or an assignment. And then we kind of break it down that way. And I think they get to the nit and grit about it. I think it's also good to see some of my kids, because I've seen an improvement on just independency from them, rather than being, oh, here's this, what you're doing, this. They're like, they can look at the post and the assignment and then go on and do it themselves. So at first I was giving each student an attachment of an assignment or whatever, but now they're starting to create their own doc, upload their own things, and then add their own attachments.
That's cool. So they kind of arrange it the way that they think it should be arranged, the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so from here, we thought, so since this is something that, you're probably thinking, great, Tia and Denise, that would have been helpful to have on Monday. We thought, you know what? Well, that wasn't really a feasible option for us to get together sometime before our week started remotely. So let's maybe use this as more of a reflection piece. And maybe this is something you could do with your students tomorrow or Friday. So in the chat, we're going to put a link to the Jamboard. And on this Jamboard, it is going to look like this. We just called it online classroom criteria. You can label it whatever you want. But it is going to show maybe one way you could look with your students. What does an online classroom look like? What does it sound like? And what does it feel like? So if you open up the link, you might be able to.
There's some sticky notes in the bottom right-hand corner if you want to go ahead and grab one of those. And this and something that we talked about here was maybe a little bit different than when we would do this in a classroom, is that where would you post it? We had some questions around that. So if any one of the virtual teachers want to join in and say, like, how could we make this a living document, or how could we make, come back to this and kind of keep it alive?
And so I think, Tina, you had to put a question mark on the sticky note to make it so that you can write on it, correct?
Right. So and you just double click that. Should be able to double click that and just
just like that. Go ahead. Somebody was speaking. I'm not sure who it was.
Did you want me to address the living document thing?
Sure.
So I found that it was necessary for my students to have a home base, and for my parents. My parents, well, yours too, you guys get it. The parents can't log into Google Classroom unless they're logged in as their student, right? So I created a website for parents and students, and that's where things like our remote learning expectations get updated and posted and left on a consistent basis. So if something changes, then that's where we put that, as well as links to current assignments and technology tips, etc.
So much similar to how you would have maybe a bulletin board in your face-to-face classroom where you might post your classroom rules. And if you needed to refer to them every now and again, if somebody was kind of stepping out of line or someone needed a refresher to what your actual classroom rules are that you all agreed upon, you would steer them towards that bulletin board. In your Google Classroom, you just steer them towards that space where you post things like that. Melissa?
Not in my Google Classroom, Denise. I use a Google site, because that way the parents also have access to it.
Okay.
And
So
if
you
anybody
created your own-
wants to just make a copy of my site, they can do that and then just change it as they please, right?
Okay, so yeah, that would be awesome, Melissa. So you, just to refresh everybody's memory, so you just created your own Google site and you kind of post everything on there that is Melissa Dent's online classroom stuff.
Yeah, so it's got like, here's my math lessons, here's my art lessons. It's got a page, this is what Google Genius Hour is. This is, this is due at this time or whatever. It's there so that the students and the parents can log in and refer to it at any time. And anything that needs to be kept private is, like, they don't have access to kids' marks on there or kid comments on there, but it gives them a place, a landing place. You need a home base for everybody to go back and forth to. And for most of you, if you're only doing this for a week, stick with Google Classroom. But if you go longer, Google site I found became necessary after about 2 weeks.
Right, because that's where, and you have to actually physically post that stuff, right, Melissa? Like you said, your math lessons are on there. You have to actually put them on there, right?
Sorry, I'm still multitasking. Yes, I do, but it's built up in such a way that it's not like, so the calendar, that your Google Calendar is linked to your Google Classroom. So my homepage is my calendar. So all the links are right there to go directly into the assignments for the students. The parents won't have access.
Right. And I appreciate you mentioning to the face-to-face folks that are virtual this week that, again, if this is just something that you're doing for this week right now, that it's probably simplest and in everybody's best interest that you just stay with your Google Classroom that you've got set up.
Yeah. Can I also say that my first week, well, my first month, well, no, all of virtual teaching, I started my day at 6 a.m. and I didn't end until 1 a.m. And eventually you wear yourself out. So stop, take a break, do the best you can, and share resources. Don't recreate the wheel.
Right. And a lot of the stuff, like, don't be discouraged if the stuff that you used in class that had success doesn't have success online. You have to revamp it a little bit, right? Cut it down a little bit, chunk it a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, good teaching is good teaching, but lessons are not the same virtually as they are in the classroom. Bottom line.
Perfect.
Yeah, for me, I think, and we're like, you know, we kind of with the Jamboard here today, we're trying to do two things, right? Is that we're modeling the tool itself, so that, you know, we'll be giving kids an opportunity to try out the tool and to play with the tool, as well as set those norms, because, you know, as we go forward, Jamboard might be one of those tools that you want to add to your toolbox, because you can use it in multiple different ways, and then you know, it's just a great tool to add to your toolbox early.
Jamboard was a lifesaver for everything, because it works on all devices and kids can work at the same time. Today we had a virtual snowball fight using Jamboard. I'll drop the link for that.
Perfect. Okay, we have
Thanks,
some folks that are putting some information on our Jamboard. And again, we just showed you this. Maybe this is something you want to spend some time with in the next day or two when you're with your folks for our face-to-face teachers.
For me, it would be a great Friday reflection, right? Is that if you get an opportunity to build this earlier, I think that's great. But then, like, kind of go back and do a check-in and say, like, you know, how did we do with this? Can we find any specific examples and provide them of students helping each other, of taking turns in conversations and listening to peers and guests? How do we know? So really kind of like, you know, that's that assessment for learning, and tying that in to community building and all that other stuff. So
perfect. Okay, so again, we just like to make sure we refresh here that it's all about being flexible and taking care of yourself and taking care of your needs. That was been mentioned, I think, every day that we've been on, and I think probably in every session for every grade. It's you know, work with your kids. Don't be afraid to go away from the plan that you've had. Tech issues are going to happen. Let it happen. Like, work through it, but don't get stressed about it.
yeah, I don't think we broke the internet today. I think it sounds like the internet was up and going.
No, the internet was not up and going for everybody, teen. It was broken for many students again.
I was going to say there's still
I'm
some
sorry to
issues.
hear that.
Is it with Coachico again,
Okay.
Melissa?
For the most part, yes. Like for my husband, I had to teach from my phone. My son did his math meeting before 8:30 and it was all good. I had to teach from my phone for a good 2 hours this morning. About 10 of my students dropped in and out. My husband managed to get back on and continue, but he wasn't using a Google platform, but he got on Wi-Fi.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I did not hear.
Yeah, I heard that there's a couple of people that are still having some issues, but right. So we're just going to go through these next couple slides. Again, this is if your students are emailing you, your parents, that they're having tech issues. Here is this magical email that you'll refer them to. And from what I hear, they just magically take care of all of your students and their technology issues, so you can focus on your teaching. And from here, I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat or any comments that anybody has been making lately, team. We're going to be busy.
No, lots of sharing. Yeah, lots of sharing, but no questions. And that we can pause for a moment, you know, model that wait time, and see if there are any questions or comments or wonderings.
And we'll put all of the great links that were shared today in our show notes. And I can put that up there in case anybody wants that link to copy down. The deck is going to be in our show notes as well. So if anybody, anything off of our deck that you find interesting.
Yeah, just Melissa brought up a point that when you're in a Google Meet, you can automatically start a Jamboard now. That's a new function that they've added. You can either open one from your Google Drive, or you can just generate a new one right from inside Google Meet.
Cool. Have they made it so that there's more than 20 boards, Melissa, or is it still that's the limit?
So Google has a whole bunch of updates, but I don't want to tell you what they are because they're going to become available at different times to different places, and they're still deciding whether they're going to be under educator or enterprise. But yes, Jamboard's getting all kinds of upgrades, including the ability to see revision history. It's supposed to be there, it is for some educators in the state, so it should be for us soon, by the end of the month, maybe.
Cool.
I think our virtual teachers have been so thorough that there are no questions right now. Everyone looks like they're in a good place, which is great to see.
Does anybody need anything? Need lessons, resources, links?
If you want to email us or privately message us too, that's totally okay, and we will we'll definitely connect you to either Melissa or ourselves or anyone else in the team here who can help support.
I just want to do a special shout out to Melissa. This is Cam speaking. She sent a wealth of resources kind of via Megan Boss, and I shared them with my staff K-8. And coming into this week, obviously a lot of people were overwhelmed. And that just put them at ease. It goes back to what Melissa stated, not reinventing the wheel. And I feel as though a lot of people thought they had to. And that was kind of a springboard into classes collaborating with one another and teachers collaborating. So what I've noticed across my entire school from K-8 is very similar virtual platforms, where they're all going in, they're like solo entities. Now you can see some consistency, especially amongst divisional partners. And I think, a school like Basenko, we have numerous families with lots of siblings in a school. So we have similar schedules from K-8. So we break at the same time, we have lunch at the same time, but we don't have someone who's an absolute rock star and someone who's just sprinkling, instructional bits. So thank you to Melissa and the virtual team for providing those resources. It's been truly beneficial.
Thanks, Cam.
So Cam, you know that I gave you editing access in the shared drive, so you can add anybody you want, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I like that. That's a great point that you raised there, Cam, about your school is on the same schedule, so that way, if you have multiple kids at the school, they can take lunch together and they can spend nobody has to worry about being quiet instead of ripping around the house when somebody else is online.
The other thing I'd like to, oops, sorry, Cam.
No, go ahead, Melissa.
I just want to say that teachers are missing staff rooms and they're forming their own little groups and cliques again. But if you could consistently have just an open virtual staff room, not that's a meeting, but that they can just drop in and bitch if they need to, it's very useful.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm working really hard on my wait time team.
I think we've got everybody, and they know where to find us. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to come together as a group. Just a reminder that we are still running our sessions from 2 to 3, so we will be back same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow for our final session
of this week.
So one more for this week. We will hopefully see everybody back tomorrow between 2 and 3. Thank you to all of our guests and our panel. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you,
us
everyone.
today. Virtual teachers and face-to-face. We appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Take care.